Hey guys, we're going to be doing a lesson on factors and multiples. Hopefully I don't lose you in this because it can be a little daunting, but I promise if you know your facts, this is really, really easy. If you don't know your facts, I encourage you to try to work on those because the more you know them, the easier factoring gets. All right, there's a couple things I put up to be able to help. We're going to do the page that I showed you, this one together. There's a multiplication chart up on Schoology for you in day 4's folder. There's also this in your book, page 174. I highly recommend taking and having that out to help you, especially if you are not so strong in your facts. All right, but before we start using any of that, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show you first what part of a multiplication problem are the factors and what's the multiple. So if I do a really simple one, 6 times 2 equals 6, or 3 times 2 equals 6, the things that you're multiplying together are your factors. Okay, the 3 and the 2 are your factors. 6 being your answer, this is your multiple. Okay? So the factors are what we're going to be finding. They're going to give us this multiple, and we have to discover this part. So again, it can be a little daunting, but I know you guys can do it. Just take a breath. If you still are struggling as you go through this, you call me, text me, email me, let me know you're having trouble. All right, so number 1 says Mary places 63 ornaments in rows. All rows contain the same number of ornaments. Shade in all the numbers that could be the total number of rows. And they give us possibilities here. We're going to use these possibilities, guys, because they have the factors listed. We just have to discover which ones are and which ones aren't. Okay, so they give us a big number, 63. I always start small and the biggest, okay? And I'll go down the line. This gets bigger, this gets smaller as you go down the line. And I'll show you what I mean as we go through this. Okay, well, 1 times 63, and you learned this yesterday, that identity property, 1 is not listed on here because it's not considered to be a factor. Okay, so the next one I see, the next smallest, is a number 2. Okay, this is where I go to this. If I look across the row of 2's, they are all even numbers. Okay, 2 are all even. So any number times 2 is an even number. 63 is not an even number, so 2 can't be it. So I'm just going to cross it out. 2 can't be it. Okay, so the next smallest one I see is a 3. Okay, so go to my multiplication charts. I see even add non-numbers, so 3 could be a possibility. Okay, well, when I went to my multiplication chart, 3 only goes to 30. That's too small. 63 is much bigger. So this is where I'm going to use what's on here. I see a 21, and this is where I meant a small and a big. I picked the smallest number on here and the biggest number. I'm going to multiply them together and see if I get 63. All right, so 21 times 3. Start in your ones place, 3 times 1. So you start straight up, and then you're going to go diagonal. 3 times 2 is 6, and I see a 63. So I know that 3 times 21 will give me 63. Those are factors. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color the 3 and the 21 in. All right, so the next smallest one I see is a 5. All right, when I look at my multiplication chart, let me get it up here close for you. The 5s either end in a 5 or a 0. Well, 63 doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, so that means 5 cannot be a multiple. So I'm going to cross out the 5. Okay, the next one is a 6. All right, so I'm going to look across the 6's. I see a 6, 12. There are no odd numbers. So that's telling me 6 cannot be because 63 is odd and 6 is only giving me even numbers. Okay, so the next number I come to is 7. So let's see. Look across. All right, I'm seeing a mix of even and odd numbers. And wait a minute, there's 63. So all I have to do is go straight up the column, and I'm at number 9. So that means 7 and 9 are factors of 63. So I can color in the 7 and the 9. Okay, and the last ones we have are 8 and 14. All right, well, I'm going to look across my 8s. When I look across the 8s, they're all even. So that's telling me 8 can't be it. And there's nothing left to multiply with the 14. So 14 is also not a product. And again, like I told you, these numbers, this is where I said I'd show you, these numbers are getting bigger. These numbers are getting smaller. Okay, and I know I'm finished whenever these numbers cross, which means there's nothing 8. We discovered that. So then it goes 9 times 7. It will start reverting backwards. Okay, this is how I know I'm done. I can't go any further, and I started to repeat. All right, let's look at the next one. Number 2. Buddy the elf had bought coffee mugs for presents. If he paid 54 for all the coffee mugs and each one cost the same whole dollar amount, which all that means is they all cost the same thing, how many coffee mugs could he have bought? Gives us our options. Okay, so I'm starting with 54. Okay, and hopefully you've grabbed a scrap piece of paper by now. If you haven't, go get it because it's helpful to have that workspace. All right, 54. I know 1 times 54. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the lowest one on here, which is a 2. Okay, well, 2's, they were all even, and 54 is an even number. Okay, so let me see what I could multiply it with. Okay, I'm going to go with the biggest number. That's what I'm going to start trying with. So 27. I'm going to take 27 times 2. Okay. Now, if you get to these and you're not sure of what 2 times 7 might be, you have a multiplication chart. Please use it. Okay, 7 times 2 is 14. So just like in addition, I carry it over. But not like in addition, I'm still going to multiply first. So 2 times 2 is 4. And like in addition, I add. So 2 times 2, 4, plus 1. And there's my 54. Awesome. So I know 2 times 27 is 54. All right, so I'm going to color them in. So 2, 27. Okay, so the next smallest one is a 3. All right, what other big number is on that? Just using my multiplication chart, 3's are the mix of both negative or even and odd. It only goes to 30, so 54 is bigger. Okay, I see an 18, so I'm going to try that. An 18 and a 14 are the only bigger numbers that aren't on my multiplication chart. So I'm going to try the 18. Because 18 is the next biggest and 3 is the smallest currently. All right, 8 times 3, again, you can use your multiplication chart. It's 24. Multiply 3 times 1, which is 3, and we add the 2, which is 5. And I happen to get 54. So 3 times 18. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to color in my 3 and my 18. All right. So the next smallest number is a 4. And the next smallest one is a 14. Okay. So that's what I'm going to try because 4's were all even on my multiplication chart. So it could be a possibility. So 14 times 4. All right, 4 times 4 is 16. Wait a minute. I don't even have to continue because they're already not matching. And if they don't match, then it can't be a factor. So 4 and 14 are not factors. So what I have left is a 9, an 8, and a 6. Okay. All right, 9, 8, and 6. 6 is the next possibility. So I look across my multiplication chart. Okay. Well, wait a minute. There it is. 54. So it's times 9. So 6 times 9 are factors. So there's my 9 to color in. There's 6. And all that I have left is 8. So let's check our 8s. Make sure. There's our 8, 8, 16, 24. Okay. Well, there's 56, but there was no 48. Okay. So that means 8 is not a possibility. All right. Last one I'm going to do with you. 3. Holly was baking cookies and wanted to arrange 72 snickerdoodle cookies on a cookie sheet. She puts the cookies in rows. Each row contains the same number of cookies. How many cookies could be in each row? Okay, so when I'm looking at these numbers, there's not a whole lot that aren't going to be on the multiplication chart, but there is a 36 and there is an 18, and those are a little bit bigger numbers. All right, and 72 is the biggest number we've had so far. All right, so I always start out with our identity property. Okay, so the next smallest number I see on here is a 2. Okay, well, I know 2 only goes up on my multiplication chart to 20, but 72 is even, so 2 will go into it. So I just have to figure out what times 2. So I'm going to try this 36 that's here. See what that gives me. So 36 times 2. 6 times 2 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus my 1 is a 7. 72. All right, so I know that 2 and 36 are factors. So I'm going to color in the 2. I'm going to color in the 36. All right, so far so good. All right. I don't see a 3, but the next smallest one is a 4. Okay. 4s were all even, so it is a possibility. Okay, what's another big number on here? Okay, I see an 18, so I'm going to try 4 times 18. 18 times 4. Okay, if you're not sure what 8 times 4 is, again, use that multiplication chart. So 2, and I put a 3 up there. Okay, so 4 times 1 is 4, and I'm adding in my 3, which is 72. Oh, and it matches, so I know that 4 times 18 is 72. So I'm going to color those in. Okay, so 4 and 18. All right, so we have 5. Okay, 5 is the next one. But if you remember when you looked on that multiplication chart, 5 either ends in a 5 or a 0. So I know 5 can't be it. All right, 6. Let's look across 6. Okay, 6. Well, they're all even. Okay, so maybe. Okay. What could this one's a tricky one because nothing on here will give me, but it could be. It could be. So here's where you have to take and stop and think for a second. If I know it goes to 60, 6 times 10 gave me 60. Could I go to 72? Okay, so here's where, if you're not sure what to multiply, I'm just going to start adding. Okay, plus 6. That gives me 66. Okay, I can still keep going. So I'm going to add another 6. So that's 12. Carry the 1. 17. 6 is 1. Okay. So this would be 6 times, okay, so this was 10, 11, 12 times. So that one was a tricky one because they didn't put 12 up there, but it is a possibility. So you do have to check and make sure. Okay, so we can color in 6. All right, so 6 is a possibility. Okay, well, how about 8? So let me look at 8. Come across. Well, there's 72. That makes it nice whenever it's right on there. And when I go straight up, it's with 9. So this was 8 times 9 that I can color in. And 10. When I look at 10, I know they all end in zeros. So 10 cannot be a factor. All right, and number 4 is a little different than what we've been doing because it has these words prime and composite, and it wants you to shade the primes in green and the composites in red. Okay, so all that means is a prime number has no factors. Okay, you can't divide a prime number. Can't divide it into anything other than 1. A composite number has factors. Okay, it has factors. So a composite number is really a multiple. A composite number, you'll find it on the multiplication chart. Prime numbers, you won't. Okay? So in number 4, they want us to shade all of the prime numbers green and all of the composite numbers red. I didn't have red, so I am using pink. Okay? And a real easy way to tell, look at if it's even or odd. If it's even, it's automatically going to be composite because even numbers all divide by 2. So I'm going to go through here and look and do all of the even numbers. Okay. And then it might take a little bit of finding, but I'm going to look on here for the rest. Okay. I've already done that, so I know that 43, 17, 59, 29, and 79 are not on my multiplication chart. They are prime, so you're not going to see them. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to try 5, 6, 7, and 8, see how you do, and then come back with me, unpause the video, and I will go over the answers. But I want you to try them on your own first. Okay, so pause the video, and then come on back with me. Okay, I'm hoping you paused it. And you tried. I'm not really going to take and go over how to go through these, except for 1 or 2 that kind of might have thrown you for a little bit of a loop. Okay. In number 5, 48. Should have started out with 1 times 48. And then my suggestion, start with the smallest, which was 2. And that gets multiplied with 24. And that will give you 48. See if I can get that a little closer for you. Okay, so the next one, number 3. Okay, this one was a tricky one. 3 is a factor. Okay, and I'll show you in a second another method you could use to make sure you're not missing any, but it makes it a little harder to see than what I was already showing you. And then you could use this one on your multiplication chart, 6 and 8. Okay, for this 3, the other method that you could use to do this is called a factor tree. Okay. You start with your big multiple. You look for what I can multiply together. Well, according to your multiplication chart, 6 and 8. Okay, so those are 2 of your factors. 6 will keep decomposing, which means to keep breaking apart, to 3 and 2. 8 will break apart to 4 and 2. And then that 4 will break apart into 2 and 2. So a factor tree kind of looks like a Christmas tree, kind of gets a little bigger, but there is that missing 3. Okay, so this is a little harder to see. It'll show you all the small numbers, but it won't show you these bigger numbers necessarily. Okay, it didn't show us that 2 and 24 gave us 48. There's a 2, but you don't see the number 24 there. So if you're seeing a factor and you're not sure, this is another method that you could use to do it, but it's not going to necessarily make it easier for you to see all of the factors. Okay. All right, number 6. It said shade in all the trees that contain numbers that have 4 as a factor. Okay, so you could have used your multiplication chart, gone right across and shaded any numbers that you saw. And most of them are going to be on there. So 32 would have been on there. 16 would have been on there. 36 is on your multiplication chart. 24, 4, 8, 28 would have been on there. Okay, now these last couple, they might not have been on there, but I would have looked. I saw 48. 48 is even, so I would have used that. And 56. Okay. 56 and 48. So those that aren't on your multiplication chart, well, 48 is already up here, and there's 4. So that one you had already done. And then for 56, you can either divide it or try to split it apart. Okay, 56, this would be 7 and 8, 4 and 2, and then 2 and 2, and there is your 4. So again, these factor trees can be very helpful to figure out when they aren't necessarily being nice and putting one on there for you to do your trial and error. All right, which number is not a common factor? Okay, so these ones you had to have 15, 45, and 90. They all had to have the same factor. Okay, well, 10's not a factor of 15 and 45. Okay, 7, 9, 6, 2, 4, and 25. Okay, those were all factors that were not in common. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So if I have the number 15, 45, and 90. 15, 5 times 3. 45, 9 times 5. 3 and 3. And 99 times 10. The 9 breaks apart and the 10 breaks apart. Okay? No 10 in those. There's no 7. There's no 9 in all 3 of them. See, 15 doesn't have the 9. There is no 6. There is no 2, no 4, and no 25. All of them have a 3. All of them have a 5. And all of them have a 15. 15, 45, you get that by taking 5 times 3. It's just harder to see. That's one where it might have been easier. 4 times 45, can't do a 2, and then 3 times 15. So there are a couple methods to do in these. Unfortunately, not one is necessarily better than the other. So just do your best. And again, if you're struggling, please make sure you are asking me. All right, and the very last one, guys, the prime and composite. Again, Those prime numbers are not going to be on your multiplication chart and they cannot be divided. There are no factors. And the composites are red, so I'm going to start. All of my even numbers, again, are automatically composite because they can be divided by 2. So 20, 14, 2, and 18. And these ones cannot. And again, are not found on a multiplication chart. All right, guys, I know this is a long lesson. Take your time. Okay, that was factors, and the multiples are pretty nice. Multiples just mean if I need multiples of 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, any number on a multiplication chart or that you can multiply to get to will give you multiples. Okay. What we found as we were going through this are 48 in the first page, 63, 54, 72. Those are all multiples. Okay. All right, guys. Again, any questions, you let me know. Take a breath and good luck. You guys can do this.